You're with Radio Sri Lanka on 97.4 and 97.6 FM.
The time is 6:15. Here is the news edited by Dilini Gunawardana. Read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. Chinese ambassador assures continuous support for Sri Lanka. All the Muslim schools of the island are granted a special holiday on the 30th of June. The maximum retail price of 60 medicines reduced. Appeals and objections regarding the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Scheme will be entertained till 10th of July. The Unitary Digital Identity Framework is currently underway. Foreign news. President Zelensky says his forces are advancing in all directions. Sports news. Cricket. ICC World Cup 2023. India to play Pakistan in Ahmedabad in October. Local news in detail. Premier Dinesh Gunawardana expresses hope that China would support Sri Lanka to create long-term solutions to the economic crisis by providing direct investments. He further said that the island is looking for investments in the field of agriculture, renewable energy, information technology and education. He expressed these views at a discussion held with the Chinese ambassador Qi Zhenghong at the Temple Trees. The discussions focused on new investment projects to be launched, port city in Colombo, and programs to eliminate poverty. The Prime Minister further requested the Chinese ambassador to support the paddy cultivation of the island by introducing new varieties of rice invented in Yunnan to Sri Lanka. In reply, the ambassador assured the continuous assistance of China to overcome the economic crisis. The Education Ministry says that the government has released a total of 3.1 billion rupees from the Mahapolo Higher Education Scholarship Trust Fund. Accordingly, the funds for the months of March and April will be credited to the bank accounts of the students during this week. Meanwhile, all the Muslim schools of the island have been granted a special holiday on the 30th of June in celebration of Hajj festival. Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abeyewardene today endorsed the certificate on the parliamentary budget office bill, which was debated and passed in Parliament last week. The budget office is established with the aim of assisting the Parliament, which has the power to control public finance, to fulfill its responsibilities on public finance with an independent, non-biased economic and financial analysis and vision on income and expenditure, as well as a support to certain recognized political party and a certain dependent group. Furthermore, the Speaker endorsed the certificate to the recently passed Civil Procedure Code amended bill. Accordingly, two bills will come into force as Parliamentary Budget Office Act No. 6 of 2023 and the Code of Civil Procedure Amended Act No. 7 of 2023. The maximum retail price of 60 medicines has been reduced with effect from yesterday. Therefore, those medicines cannot be sold at higher prices. The National Medicines Regulatory Authority says raids are underway to look for those who sell the medicines at higher prices. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news. State Minister of Finance Sehan Semasinga said nearly 190,000 appeals have been received thus far pertaining to the beneficiaries list of the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Scheme. Accordingly, the minister clarified that 188,794 appeals and 3,304 objections have been received thus far. He further said that appeals and objections regarding the Aswasama Welfare Benefits Scheme will be entertained till 10th of July. Meanwhile, the government assured that any shortcomings in the process of selecting the relevant candidates will be rectified immediately, and plans are being made to discuss this with the district secretaries, divisional secretaries and other parties involved in the program in the coming week. Minister Kanaka Hera says that the unitary digital identity framework is currently underway. Under the proposed unitary digital identity framework, it is expected to introduce a personal identity verification device based on biometric data, a digital tool that can represent the identities of individuals in cyberspace, and the identification of individual identities that can be accurately verified in digital and physical environments by combining the two devices. This was disclosed at the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Technical Affairs held recently. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Great Chronicle of Sri Lanka, the Mahavansa, has been listed among the 64 new items of documentary heritage inscribed on the UNESCO's Memory of the World International Register in 2023. Mahavansa covers the historical accounts of Sri Lanka from the period of 6th century BCE to 1815 CE. The authenticity of the facts provided in the document has been confirmed through archaeological research conducted in Sri Lanka and India. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the government has increased the fee to renew the license of foreign employment agencies. This was announced in a special Gazette notification dated June 22nd, issued by the Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment, Manusha Nanaikara. Thereby, the license renewal fee for foreign employment agencies has been from 50,000 rupees to 100,000 rupees. Minister Nanaikara further announced that Sri Lankans who are recruited for employment outside the country and have entered into a contract with an employer for the first time are required to pay a sum of 18,000 rupees to the Foreign Employment Bureau. Those who have renewed the contract with the same employer for the second or subsequent time are meanwhile required to pay 3,600 rupees to the Bureau. That ends Watchlight. Moving on to world news, let's take a look at the headlines. President Zelensky says his forces are advancing in all directions. Donald Trump is heard on tape discussing highly confidential documents. Hajj returns to its maximum capacity for the first time after coronavirus pandemic. World news in detail. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has visited Ukrainian forces fighting on the front line that runs through the eastern Donetsk region and the south of the country, decorating troops on a day in which he said his forces had advanced in all directions. In an upbeat message to his nation after visiting the front line, Zelensky said it was a happy day. The Ukrainian president also said he had spoken about weapons with President Joe Biden. An audio recording in which Donald Trump appears to acknowledge keeping a classified document after leaving the White House has been obtained by U.S. media. In the recording, the former president is heard riffling through papers and saying, "This is highly confidential." Mr. Trump has pleaded not guilty to federal charges of mishandling sensitive documents. Muslim pilgrims in Mecca circled in Kaaba, Islam's holiest city, and then converged on a vast tent camp in the nearby desert, officially opening the annual Hajj pilgrimage. returning to its maximum capacity for the first time since the coronavirus pandemic. The Saudi Hajj Ministry says more than 1.8 million pilgrims from all over the world have already amassed in and around Mecca for the Hajj so far, and the number was still growing as more pilgrims from inside Saudi Arabia joined the devotees. Authorities say they expect this year to approach pre-COVID levels of more than 2 million. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. President Zelensky says his forces are advancing in all directions. Donald Trump is heard on tape discussing highly confidential documents. Hajj returns to its maximum capacity for the first time after coronavirus pandemic. That ends world news.
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housekeepers, home cooks, caretakers and home nurses in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Singapore for ages 23 to 57 years. Salaries starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews with foreign agents are now on. Come whether you have a passport or not. Branches, Colombo, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500.
Moving on to development news, the Ceylon Electricity Board announced the launch of the next phase of its e-billing system, which will come into effect from the 1st of July 2023. In a press release, the CEB said the customers residing in Dehivala, Kelaniya and Sri Jayawardhanapur areas would exclusively receive their electricity bills in a digital format, either through an SMS or email. With the introduction of the e-billing system, the conventional practice of issuing printed paper bills will be discontinued. The CEB is encouraging its customers to promptly register for the e-billing system, as the issuance of printed paper bills will gradually be suspended in the coming months. That ends development news.
Development news is brought to you by
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housemaids in Kuwait, Oman and Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 58 years. Contact number 037 7500 500.
Moving on to sports news, India will host Pakistan in the upcoming 2023 ICC World Cup on 15th October in the city of Ahmedabad. A total of 48 matches will be played across 12 venues, and the final will be held at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on 19th of November. The confirmation comes after months of speculation on whether Pakistan would travel to India for the tournament. That ends sports news.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu veena habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
DFCC Bank recently held its Junior Creative Till competition to raise awareness among kids about the importance of saving, whilst sparking their creativity. The DFCC Junior Children's Savings Account is DFCC Bank's flagship minor savings account that provides numerous rewards and activities to help kids get excited about saving. DFCC Bank is committed to promoting saving habits and financial responsibility amongst Sri Lankan's future generation. That ends business news.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dagapu veena habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news, The government said that the Cabinet of Ministers has given the nod for the establishment of the Gambling Regulatory Authority in Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the legal draftsman will be directed to prepare a bill for the regulation of gaming activities. Through the establishment of a Casino Regulatory Authority, the government says it aims to properly collect taxes from gaming establishments, preventing illegal activities pertaining to the gaming, and minimize the negative impact of the gaming on society and individuals. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western and suburban provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, and Mathura districts. Several spells of showers will occur in the northwestern province. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Ubur province and in Anuradhapura and Batticaloa districts during the evening or night. Fairly strong winds, about 40 to 45 km per hour, can be expected at times in western slopes of the Central Hills, North Central Province, and in Putlam, Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. That ends the weather report. To conclude the evening news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Chinese ambassador assures continuous support for Sri Lanka. All the Muslim schools of the island are granted a special holiday on the 30th of June. The maximum retail price of 60 medicines is reduced. Appeals and objections regarding the Aswasuma Welfare Benefits Scheme will be entertained till 10th of July. The unilateral digital identity framework is currently underway. Foreign news, President Zelensky says his forces are advancing in all directions. Sports news, cricket, ICC World Cup 2023, India to play Pakistan in Ahmedabad in October. With that, we conclude the evening news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka.